What is up, guys? Today we're going to go into episode 2 of League Basics, looking at freezing and lane control. This is probably one of the easiest things to actually abuse, like easy to pull it off and has a big impact in the game, which is why I think you can easily abuse the playstyle to diamond. You all seem to enjoy the first episode last week, so I'm hopefully going to do one of these every week, but let me know if there's anything in particular you guys want to see or learn about. So I guess the first thing is kind of just what is it, right? Freezing is holding the wave in place in a lane. Normally you keep it in a position that's good for you. Lane control can be like a ton of different things, honestly, but here it's going to be controlling where in the lane you actually are, how the enemies have to position, and gives us kind of another way to win the lane. Too many people think the only way to win a lane is to kill the enemy. That is like high risk, high reward. If it goes right, we get a lead. If it goes wrong, they get a lead. That is fine. It is like the most simple way, I guess, but this is less risk and can actually help you get kills easier as well. Using the stuff in this video is going to lead to a lot of things, so like it will help you stop dying to ganks or in lane as much. It will help you get more kills, get a bigger lead from lane, win without fighting, stop losing as hard when behind, and my special is going to make people tilt. So we're going to go over how to freeze, when and how to abuse it properly, and then also talk about some more just zone control things in general, but I'm going to put this in a way where you can use this even in a bronze game, honestly, all the way to diamond games. You don't have to be a god of the game to use the basics of this. How you freeze isn't too hard, really. It's more about like the why and the when you do it. So for the why, it can be used for all the stuff we've already said, but even simpler, we freeze to deny gold and experience if we can, to punish them for being behind. This part does work best if you are stronger than the enemy laner, but we'll look at how you can use it being weaker later. This is why it's less risk than diving into a fight. Like, we get free farm, they get no farm, and we get gold without having to chance a fight. This is how you'll get a bigger CS lead, get more kills, be a higher level than the opponent outside of the lane phase, like having more items going into mid game. This is a really big deal in season 6 specifically because games are faster. Mid game is going to mean a little bit more. So not only are we giving ourselves a better chance to do well mid game, but we're making sure the enemy has less items, less damage, and less chance of having an impact. So the when side of things, most people just autopilot push in any kind of lane, right? The enemy laner backs off a bit because they're weaker, and you just push to deny under tower. Now actually you're just pushing gold and experience into them for free. What you're actually doing is helping them stay in the game. So when you're stronger, you want to stop pushing, you only last hit, and you stand forward a little bit to stop them coming in range to get anything. This is the way you're actually going to be denying them. You're putting them behind and stopping them getting gold. So let's go into how you do it properly, then go into specific situations you can abuse freezing in, like the most common ones anyway. So a proper freeze only really works when the enemy wave has more minions than yours does. That way it will slowly push to you and there's nothing they can really do about it. There are a few basic things you want to be thinking about. So keeping it out of your tower. Tower shots are going to even the wave out and bounce it back to the middle. You only want to last hit really, but you also want to be thinning the wave out if it's pushing too fast. Killing some of the extra casters is the easiest way to do it. If you end up messing that up a little bit, you can also just tank the minion wave just outside your tower to wait for your new wave to arrive and switch the aggro. This doesn't feel particularly good when you're actually doing it to start with, because you actually have to let them push a little bit and get some CS before you can deny them. Now that kind of freeze isn't as likely, that's like perfect scenario, but in a normal game, a normal freeze kind of just stops auto pushing and denies some gold. The wave is probably in the middle of the lane, even it will slowly push to them if you only last hit. It's going to deny a little bit of CS, but also force some mistakes. Remember as well, the idea with this is we want to be standing a bit forward too, kind of like in line with the wave, so we can stop the enemy just walking forward and CSing or breaking it. Now there are 5 kind of areas in lane. This will make sense in a minute, by the way, as well, but the first one is your tower. So you're going to miss CS under the tower and they can poke you for free. Not really what we want to do. Being just outside your tower means you have the danger of being pushed in and losing the CS, but it's hard to be ganked and it's a long lane for the enemy to run away if they need to. In the middle is probably the most even, I guess, where most of the kills are going to happen because there's distance from both towers. You can focus more on aggression rather than kind of wave control or thinning the wave out. Now just outside their tower is where they're more likely to focus on minions, but they aren't missing any. So it's also very easy for you to get ganked and a long lane to run away. This is what you want to avoid. You never want to be just outside their tower. Finally, being under their tower, they have to focus on farming. You get free poke under tower with no return damage from them, but you can get ganked. By the way, I'm going to put a graphic with all 5 of those in the description. If I forget, please flame me in the comments and I'll add that in, but at least then you can have it kind of on another screen, or you can have it handy so you know kind of the idea. The reason I say you kind of want to have it is because you need to think about what you want to do at that time. Like if you're weaker, then just outside your tower is a good place. You don't lose CS to the tower and you can easily run backwards to avoid damage. If you want to fight, then you want the wave in the middle of the lane. If you want to just poke, then you want to push the wave under their tower. What we're actually looking at now is kind of like how you're going to be using this, so what we're actually using all of this for and how to do each of them. So if we're getting camped, we kind of want to freeze it near our tower. Let them push a little bit, then even the wave out and keep it close to your tower. You can chase them, you can fight them if you know it's safe, but you're not going to be getting ganked anymore. If you're stronger and you want more kills, stop pushing into their tower. It gives them gold, but it's also very hard to kill them unless you have very heavy poke. If you freeze it in the middle of the lane or towards your tower, these are like perfect spots for you. If they come to stop you or CS, you can run at them and fight. And it's also a longer lane now for them to get back to their tower. It's also really good if you just want to like increase your lane lead, like if you want to win your lane even harder. Kind of in the same way as the previous one, but denying CS plus getting our usual kills makes them a lot weaker while you're getting stronger. This is something a lot of people don't really think about, but the gold difference between you and the enemy laner will be higher when you're using this. One we haven't mentioned as much is how to kind of stop feeding and getting boned when you're really far behind in the game, kind of just how to stop losing your lane so hard. Freezing or holding the wave just outside of your tower gives them hardly any kill potential on you. It makes it a lot easier for you to at least survive the lane. If you just autopilot push like normal, you're going to end up denying yourself and putting the wave away from your tower, so you'll have even further to run back to safety. This doesn't really work versus like heavy poke, but in general this actually helps a lot. Finally, the one you probably weren't expecting, like how do you actually make people tilt and make mistakes with this? Freezing actually just denies gold flat out, right? It stops them coming near the wave, and most people react the same way. They think, I can't do anything, I can't farm, this is over. I'm 100% serious as well, by the way. I use this all the time to get into someone's head and just make them play worse. Pushing into them at least gives them some kind of CS. It gives them this kind of like safety net, you know, at least I'm getting something, but preventing them getting anything is a whole different story. If you're able to do this, especially like at the plat level and below as well, people are most likely either going to run to the CS anyway, which means you can kill them. They'll try to fight you just to kind of break the freeze, which means you can kill them. They'll start raging at their team for help, which means they're less likely to get help, and it's kind of an easier game because now everyone's fighting each other. Or the last couple of options, which is like worst case, they'll run to a different lane which tilts their team, or they'll go AFK because they can't do anything anymore. It sounds really weird, but actually just go into a game and try it, because I guarantee you people will make a lot of mistakes when you're freezing against them and they don't really know what to do. By the way, if anyone is ever freezing against you, call your jungler down and get them to push the wave into tower, or just use your long range abilities to hit minions and push. Even if you don't get the CS, it doesn't matter, we just want to push. As soon as it hits the tower, you'll be fine because it bounces back to you, but most people don't know that though, and they kind of panic. They get themselves killed or they have to base. So let's just end this with some general like lane control stuff that actually comes from this. So zoning is another word for freezing, I guess, but it's more like what happens because of the freeze. The point I want to make though is zoning requires very little skill or mechanics, it's just knowledge, and it can be used to beat better players in lane. Most of you guys are smart, you at least have some kind of like general game knowledge, I guess, and you can be using this against people who just don't know how to do it. Pushing actually isn't always a bad thing as well. Sometimes you do want to just get the tower damage, you also want to poke them under tower and get some free damage onto them. This is actually really good if you're even or you have that kind of long range poke as well, but remember you're likely going to be getting ganked, plus if you don't kill them or force them away, you're kind of just feeding them gold. Pushing also does create lane pressure though, whereas like freezing gives them lane pressure. If you push mid, for example, you've pinned that laner under tower, right? He can't move, he can't roam, he can't help his jungler or do anything basically except farm under tower. The thing is, it lets your jungler like invade and you'll react first, plus actually lets you be the first to roam to other lanes, which is another really good way to win a game. One of the worst things about freezing though is if they can't break the freeze and they can't do anything, a smart player is actually going to move to another lane and cause a problem there, just like push a tower or something. Especially if you freeze after losing your first tower, you need to make sure you know where your lane opponent is and ping properly so they don't roam and just like get a few kills. Freezing is a great denial tool to be aggressive, like it's actually an aggressive playstyle, but in my opinion it's not as good as a defensive tool later. It's not really worth the sacrifice your team has to pay, honestly. Like you get a bit more CS because you're freezing bot lane, but then the rest of your team is going to be mid and they're going to be at a numbers disadvantage. Freezing and lane control and stuff is weird because a lot of it is kind of not needed, I guess. There's a lot more to it when you get to a high level, but in basic terms this is all you need to know about it to get to diamond. Let me know what you want me to cover next in this League Basics series. Remember to like, subscribe, comment and share, but for now let's go to the robots.